drive me insane. So what we're going to do our standard icebreaker. Then we're going to go through the housekeeping, do a little bit on, show you where the new previously on's gone. Then we're going to really get into naming conventions, because there's lots of stuff coming to me about the names from various points of people, and I'm trying to explain that there's 148 ways of doing names, and even within some local authorities it's changed depending across the years on who was involved, and I'm trying to get you all corralled into an agreed way of doing it, a way that makes sense to more people than less people. I don't want to be bringing things down from above, because I don't know what your world is like, and I want to make sure that I keep everything so that what's on the street and what's in the schema really align. So that's the goal. So I'm going to go through naming conventions and then go through a bit of naming and practice. And then I've got a bit of an exercise, because last time we uncovered that it really does depend on context as to what the names need to be, especially when you're talking localities and adding localities and indicators and things like that to the name. So we are focusing on common name, but we know that common name is not the sole name of a stop, and there's other parts that need to come together. So that's some of what we're going to have a look at, because, and I'm going to nullify myself, the schema does not provide exactly enough guidance on how to do naming in many ways, and is even vague on how you join things together, because it does, you can combine them in different ways, and offers about 6 different combinations. So kind of want to touch on this. So icebreaker, let's run through, and I've got my little list of participants up, so I'll go down it alphabetically. So to start off, hi, I'm Dr. J, use they as a pronoun. I'm from DFT. I'm acting as the service owner for NAPTAN. I'm a consultant from ThoughtWorks. My favourite seat on the bus is, I would love it to be the drivers on the upper deck, but my legs recently haven't allowed me to climb to get safely up and down the stairs, so I end up sitting down in one of the disabled seats. But I do like the one on the south side of the door, up against the window, so I can watch everything going past and I'm not too bumped by people. And I'm also facing the right way because I hate travelling backwards. So, Amy, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yep, I'm Amy Brown, pronouns she or they. I'm from Travelline, Open Data Platform Manager at Travelline, and my favourite seat on the bus. I quite like that one that's kind of over the wheel hump, that's like a little bit higher up, but not all the way at the back. Because
I know the one.
I don't know, just like you get a better view, you feel a bit more. I don't know, something about that one that's a little bit higher up that I quite like, and the window side. I don't like being in the aisle.
Always the window side.
Yeah.
Andy, you're the next one up.
Hi, I am Andy Hole. I am the Data Development Manager for National PCI. I am a he, him. Favourite seat on the bus is next to the window, probably over the seat, same as Amy. Over the wheel, sorry.
Over the wheel. Excellent. Chris, you're the next one up.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Burkett from Oxfordshire County Council. What else do you want to know? Software provider. Well, I use Andy's software, which is the Ments Diva software, and very good it is too, Andy. My favourite seat on the bus is at this time of year, right at the back, because the engine keeps it nice and warm. And the problem is we've got so many battery buses now. I don't think it's going to work from here on in.
And I didn't catch your pronoun there, Chris.
Oh, he, him.
Fantastic. Thank you. And the next person is Deborah. Hello, Deborah. Oh, we can't hear you. You're still on mute.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Deborah. I'm from Travelline Cymru. And my pronoun is she, her. And my favourite seat on the bus, I think, is probably the back seat by the window.
Right. I love the way that this call is the back of the bus kids that I was never cool enough to be part of. Iona, which, and I'm sorry, I know that I can never get the vowels right. It's a New Zealand thing.
Yeah, so it is different the way you say it, but I'm quite happy to accept it. I'm Iona McDonald. I work for Strathclyde Partnership for Transport, use she, her, and yeah, so Strathclyde is essentially just Glasgow and the surrounding area. My team leader might be joining us later. She is on another call, which will maybe go on for another 5-10 minutes, and she doesn't usually join these calls, but we're just moving to a new database, which you might remember Jay Reid mentioned a while ago, but it was finally kind of, we're getting to a stage where it's going live soon. I know, wow. So we've got a lot to kind of think about, and we're not entirely sure how the NAPTAN export stuff is going to work compared to how it used to. So her name's Ailsa. You might see her pop up once we're already in the midst of it, but just to let you know, she'll be there as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. And can we ask what you're moving to, or is that commercially sensitive still?
No, it's called Hexagon by NTT Data. It's an EAM platform. I don't know if that means anything to anyone.
We will have fun, and when it comes to exporting and working it out, feel free to get in touch.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to.
Out.
So I'll maybe catch you at the end, Jay, to suss out how we go about that.
Fantastic. Yes, Lynn, you're the next one up. Sorry, I was having an entire vagary of where I was at in the list.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm Lynn Anderton. I'm she, her. I'm a data officer for Transport for West Midlands. And like a few others have mentioned, my favourite seat is on the hump.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And Tricia, you're the last one up.
Yeah, I'm Tricia Wright. I'm the Information Data Manager at Nottinghamshire County Council. Pronouns are she, her. My favourite seat on the bus, I'm going to go against the norm, and I like the front seat on the top deck. So it looks like I'm driving.
The driver's seat. That's the one. That's the one a lot of Londoners will run up the stairs to try to get. Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. So what we're going to do is I'll quickly run through some housekeeping. I do this at the start of all of these calls. Literally, it's here. I know you've all heard it so many times. It's for people who are watching it. It's that like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah stuff that everyone has to do on an apparently it's mandatory on YouTube videos. Then I will show you where the new stuff is. All the previously on stuff we've now put in our CMS. So there's now a little content management system with all of the information about NAPTAN, and we're slowly populating it. And then we're going to get into the naming conventions, which is going to be the bulk of what we focus on. And at the end, we'll have that little 5 minutes for feedback. So you can find us on YouTube, or you can watch this in high speed. You can follow us on Eventbrite. We have 97 people following us on Eventbrite, apparently, who get notified when I create meetings. And then you can also sign up for our newsletter, which comes out once a month and lets you know what's going on with NAPTAN. We also use the same mailing list as the newsletter for any outage notifications or any emergency notifications that need to happen. So it's worthwhile signing up, even if you're not that interested in getting something. And it's an interesting newsletter once a month. About what we've been up to. The next one that we're going to do in October is going to be on stop statuses. So we're going to talk about active and inactive and pending and revised, and God only knows what you're doing with them. And I have lost the will to live. But I want to talk through what we want and what we'd ideally like to be able to represent, and then have a look at how we get to that point. And then in November, we're going to be talking possibly about rail replacement buses. I will hopefully have something then, a proposal then that I can share to everybody about how we're going to be handling that. We've had to move one of the dates. I couldn't get back from Gotland on time because apparently flying from Stockholm to Gotland only flies like 3 times a week, and I didn't realise that. I thought it flew every day. So I've got to change one of the dates. We're not doing any public meetings. I love the way I've now said there's a meeting in December, and then there'll be no December public meetings. We'll come back in January with an accessibility update, and then February and March we'll decide what we're talking about. If you need anything, if you're like, actually, I really like us to discuss this point or this point from NAPTAN, just throw them up there. That's why we're discussing stop statuses, because it came up enough times in these questions. information about NAP10, we're providing the performance metrics. And we're doing this because the previous version of NAP10 did not have 100% uptime, I think would be the polite way of putting it. And one of the things that we're trying to do is reassure everybody that the current version is solid, it's performative, it's up. We're getting lots of files being uploaded every month. We did 278 files in August. So you all are doing those updates on more than a daily basis. And then we've also got a list of how many remove stops there are. And then for all the decisions made, if you remember, there used to be a previously on NAP10, that's now all available off on the site. If you click on, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? I am very carefully going through this, pretending like I'm sharing my screen, and I'm not, because it is morning and I have not had anywhere near enough coffee to deal with this. Somebody should have yelled, Jay, you think you're sharing your screen and you are not. Dear God. So here we are with this lovely, we've got, if you go to the site, and you'll see help has been replaced with additional info, and you can now get all the NAP10 guidance, all the information about accessibility. You can get access to the public meetings and sign up to the newsletter. There's a few dynamic pieces that we're looking at slowly developing. This will hopefully have the stability information and how many files have been done this month available for you live, so you can get a sense of that. And that's pretty much it. If you've got any thoughts on that, please just give us a yell and get in contact with us. It's one of those things that's the MVP. We want to develop it and iterate on it and make it a very, very useful repository of all of the information of NAP10. So we're trying to find all of the places where NAP10 information is disseminated. There's a lot of them, and just kind of quietly shutting them down and corralling them into the one spot if we can, because it's going to make it much easier to ensure there's consistent information that is managed and obtained and is sane and doesn't say the wrong things. So I'm going to tell you how to suck eggs for a minute, because I know you all know this, but I just want to go through so that we're going to use the same terminology in a few places. We're going to go through what does NAP10 facilitate, because then we're going to use this journey and focus on where common names and the names of stops come up, because that's really important. So this is Beryl. Beryl lives in Bristol. She wants to see her friend Beverly. Beverly lives in Birmingham. So the journey NAP10 is going to facilitate is a multi-operator, more than one operator of the same type of transport, multimodal, more than one type of transport, and multi-LA, crossing those local authority boundaries. So we're going to facilitate a journey getting from Bristol to Birmingham. Beryl will use a travel planner. She can plan her journey in one place, and she has all of the information she needs to have agency and autonomy over her travel plans. Beryl's transport was linked up in the early 2000s when NAP10 was created, which allowed data that was in all of those silos to be joined up. And NAP10 is the what is where of public transport for all public transport. And NAP10 stops are described in a consistent format, with each having a unique identifier. Now, the consistent format I've put in bunny ears, because we all know that 148 people have interpreted a schema, and there are consistency, and that can sometimes be a little bit wobbly, and that's some of what we're tackling with these meetings. Just to run through how and remind everyone how data moves across the public transport system, and this is very, very stylized. You've got your local authorities, and when they want to put in a bus stop, you go through the proposal, planning and provision stage. At some point, a bus stop is created and it's given a name. Now, how does it get that name? We don't know. Does it change its name at any time? Probably. Is that name to any kind of standard? Well, it depends on the local authority and what they're doing. That information is then created in a NAP10 for the local authorities, which is what you'll send me. I then combine it into a NAP10 national data set, and it's published. That NAP10 data then goes down to bus operators, who put in their routes, do their planning, and do their staffing. They then publish their TransExchange files up to both TNDS and BODs in various different ways. Now, at some point, the bus operators may also decide that the name needs a change and change the name, and sometimes they change the name of what they publish in the TransExchange on their systems, because they use that same system to do the on the bus systems, which is the next stop announcements, the ticketing, and the fare zones. And it's the next stop announcements that we believe there's some name changes that happen there to make sure that the stops are the stops that people recognize, which is what we're going to get onto later on here. And then we use all of those feeds are used to play with the real-time bus information for those schedules, those incidents, that adherence to schedule, and also where my bus be, which is the real-time information that we show to passengers as to here is the bus to somewhere that is stopping at the stop. And all of this information is combined somehow by data consumers, and it's put into a whole pile of consumer apps, which is your bus company apps, your local authority apps, and websites, Passenger, Google, Apple, Travelline, and there are others, and also your printed timetables. And somehow, with all of this, Beryl catches the right bus in the right place at the right time for the right fare, and NapTan's the enabler for all of this to happen. Is there anything there that's news to anyone on this call? I'm hoping that it's not, because you all do it every day. So what I then want to do is go, right, we're back at the Jay asks what is a bus stop level of questioning, because this is really fascinating. I'm going to give you a minute to put up some stickies. Hopefully you'll remember how to use Mural and stickies. You just click on the second button down, you get stickies of various types, squares, rectangles, and circles, and you just drag and drop them onto the screen so that you can write in them and just click on them to write. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I want you to put down what a name's used for. And I might challenge some of these and say that it's possibly the same function is fulfilled by another field, but I want you to think about what a name's for. What is the purpose of giving a bus stop a name? I could call them all Bob, short for Kate. Or Kate, was it Kate short for Bob? Can't remember which way around. They did that on Blackadder. Cool. I'm going to start at the ones that are done. So I'll do these ones down the bottom. Search terms for journey planning or searching for stop departures. As the name in a timetable to identify the stop. The name is used to find the location of the bus stop by the passenger who was told the name from a journey planner. I'm hoping their journey planner would also tell them the pin dot walkie thing. Helps identify, I think this is Iona's person, Alisa.
Hi there.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm a bit late.
That's totally fine. That's totally fine. We're just working on what are names used for. So we're focusing on the common names of stops. So we've just gone through their search terms as the name in a timetable, helping identify the correct stop for those producing and installing timetables. The name is used to find the location of the bus stop by the passenger who was told the name from a journey planner, to identify where to get on or off, identification of the bus stopping place useful when combined with the locality, on the bus next stop announcements, to identify the location of the bus stop, i.e. the street on the stop is on a long visible landmark or side road, used to give this used as the name gives more specific location details. So we've got an idea of a name as something that's used in a number of different contexts here, which is great because we'll get onto those contexts in a bit, and also that we're combining it in a number of different ways. Does the name for use all, and I know some of you do put flags up and some of you have flags with names on, do you make sure that the name on the flag and the name in NAPTAN, do they always match, or do you have instances where they might just be a little bit out of date because one name's updated and one name hasn't? Trisha, Lynn's gone, yes. You've spotted the problem.
Yeah, for us, we have a different set of guys doing the flags in our team. So I know in the past there's been issues where they've been manually changed in that system, which is a different system. So yeah, but I mean, we've done a lot of work over the last, probably 10 years. And we've done a lot in the last 6 years, renaming stops with NX for their at stop. So yeah, I think we're in a pretty good place now.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, it varies between local authorities, because I know some local authorities stop flags don't have the names on there. They're just a stop with maybe a reference number on it and a QR code, whereas others are, and the diagram here is a very London-y stop, because it's got the name, the destinations, and all the routes that run through it. London have a lot of information on their flags. So I think there's a wide, and that might become an interesting thing that we get to discuss in the future, is flagging a bus stop. Trisha?
We put the stop names on our bus stop flags, as well as what we call the plate code. But we are working with our local operators at the moment who are frantically trying to sort out all their onboard announcements and realise what drivers call the stops and what their running boards call the stops and what their ticket machines call the stops and what NAPTAN calls the stops are all different. So
and this is...
Yes. So we're doing an exercise and working with them to try and, they're saying actually we should match NAPTAN, or we think NAPTAN should change. The difficulty becomes when we have two operators using a stop, and one wants to call it after the side road, one wants to call it after the church, and that's when I have to step in and go, well, I'm going to decide for you then.
That sounds fair enough. And this was the next one of when do things get renamed? When do stops get renamed? And because I'm aware that there is that change with bus operators of providing a more local name, which means that when I look on one travel planner, I might see one name. On another travel planner, I might see another, depending on whether they're pulling TransExchange or NAPTAN data for the stop name. And then you get a slightly different thing when you arrive at the stop, and either there's a name that's, I know, I wonder how Beryl manages to travel sometimes. So I just wanted to quickly get people's thoughts on, when do things get renamed? Is it just bus operators? Is it bus operators showing local? Do you know of any of the journey planners, travel planning apps that do any renaming as well, to try and sprinkle some magic upon it or something? Any thoughts there?
From SPT's point of view, we name all the stops, and if somebody advises us that they would like to change it, we would look at that and and consider whether we would rename it or not, but we would be very much in control of it rather than being directed by people. But sometimes we're having to change things, because a lot of the old stuff was renamed, named at shops that don't exist anymore, or, because we've got, quite, sort of 14,000 NAPTAN codes, it's hard to know that if we've updated them all.
Oh yeah, I totally understand that, and I know that there's a whole thing about not naming stuff after pubs and spaces or brands, which was suggested very a long time ago, and is kind of applied differently across the country. Again, because I'm London based and London is its whole separate thing, we have the Bricklayers Arms, which hasn't existed for I don't know how long, probably since prior to the war. The Bricklayers Arms went out and became a roundabout, but all the stops around there are still called the Bricklayers Arms, because the side roads are all A roads, so the Bricklayers Arms is the only way of defining the area and defining the stops within it. So this is why I want to ensure that we don't have any kind of strict rules. We have some guardrails and some guidelines and some suggestions, because I think applying strict rules, there's so many variables that run locally. Andy, you've got some thoughts. I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, journey planners should never change the NAPTAN code. All operators, I hope in all the areas that I manage, or that we supply the software for, that the operator and the people will, if the stop name is wrong, someone will let us know, or let the data owner know, so the stop can be named correctly at source. And if an operator thinks the stop name is wrong, they then go to the local authority that owns the data and says, this is my suggestion, it should be called this. In the Swindon area, we had the main operator there, which was Go Ahead. They consult with Stagecoach, and then they will suggest a new name. We went through a project a little while ago, where about 12 different stops were renamed. But the trouble is the money they spend on putting the flag on the stop. If the stop is flagged and it's got a name on it, that name needs to be right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's also one of the things that you brought up. It's great in your area because people know you, and you have goodly people working with you. There's some stuff that comes through to me where bus operators are struggling to get a local authority connection and struggling to respond, and that's part of why we've been having a look at this contact form notion, to try to resolve or to try to smooth out some of that flow. But also there's a lot of people who just don't know who to contact for a particular bus stop. Even the bus operators within that area are out of contact with the local authority, and there's some local authorities, Midlothian and Dumfries as well, I think it is, who haven't updated since 2018 and 2019, haven't updated their NAPTAN. So there's a lot of variability around how often people update. I know Andy updates once a week because we see every week Andy updates most of his local authorities once a week or thereabouts. We know your upload dates. I know you in our system.
Yeah, I upload about half of my data sets every week, I think, but I do it on change only. Yeah,
which is great because we now see that, but there's some local authorities that are only able to update once a quarter. That's all they've got the resources and the time and the ability to do. So we're trying to also look at this and ensure that we're not putting too much pressure on people who just don't have the resources. We want to make sure that this gets smoothed out somehow. So having a look through, when do things get renamed? If a landmark is no longer or changes its name, we've renamed about 10% of our stops over the last 6 years in liaison, thank you very much, with the largest bus operator for on-stop announcements so they make more sense on the bus. Lots were renaming due to travelling along issues. Can you help me understand what you mean by travelling along?
Yeah, so basically you could have a bus that's travelling along a very long road, and then it's named. I'm trying to remember the actual scenario, but we just had loads where it didn't make sense if you were sat on the bus, the name of the stop. You'd passed it a long time ago. I think that was the issue. So there were lots like that where we changed it.
Because the nearest side road was behind you, not in front of you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And also, I know that, for example, pubs change their name, although they don't seem to change their names that often these days. But it's superstores changing names and brands as well. Like, I know that a lot of co-ops have now become spas and things like that. So when it used to be the co-op, you're stopping at this such and such co-op, that's now no longer such a landmark. Rename in conjunction with operator, which is great, getting involved with the operators. Renaming when something doesn't exist anymore, pubs gets renamed. Colleges, oh yes, everyone said all of your schools are being renamed, becoming academies and changing names all over the show. Generally in agreement with operators and local transport reps, but ultimately we, the local authority, decides what to do for NAPTAN purposes. Haven't renamed anything but have added custom POIs with alternative names for some stops. So you're using the alternative name field in there. Is this right? Did I get that right?
Hey, sorry, that was me. Because obviously we at Travelline, as a journey planner, we don't have any control over NAPTAN, but we've added our own stops to our search function when people haven't been able to find the stop that they're looking for because it wasn't called what they were expecting it to be called. It's probably a weakness of our search, but I think the example was in the northeast, the local authority asked us if we could add custom stops. I think it was Sunderland interchange. They were like, nobody's searching for Sunderland interchange in the journey planner, they're searching for Sunderland bus station, and so they're not finding Sunderland interchange in the search to do their journey plan from because they're searching for bus station. So we added that for them so that people could find and search from the location that they wanted to search from. But then I don't know why the local authority didn't change the name in NAPTAN at source, which is, like Andy said, should be the way around it should go.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was a temporary measure while they were changing it, but I'm pretty sure it's still called interchange. Or if they had other powers that wanted it to be called interchange, but rather than it being renamed, it was an additional stop that the interchange stop still exists in the database that we're using, but we've just added an extra one with a sort of, if people search for bus station, they're still going to get the same location, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Although it means I might go and have a hunt down later, and this might be one where we go and have a conversation, because it also then leads to what is the purpose of a name. If it's about branding, if it's about, as a local authority, how do you choose a name that is reflective of what it is, but also fits the right thing? And also, why would you call it interchange rather than bus station? Because it's a bus. Yeah, I know. Maybe that's something we go and have a talk to Sunderland. Sunderland.
I think it was Sunderland.
Sunderland about.
It was a long time ago. Whether or not they've changed it since then, I'm not sure. But that was just one example that I thought, well, we've been asked to. This is the name that's in NAPTAN, but it's not the name that people use. Can you? They're not able to find it in the journey planner. Can you add? That was just the example that I could think of.
Oh, no, that's a really good one. Thank you so much for that. Andy, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, can I ask Amy, did you make the change in NAPTAN itself, or have you added an extra?
No, we don't have any way to change NAPTAN ourselves at Travelline centrally. So this was just a custom. We're able to add some custom stops to our own journey planner that if people use in the search, it's somewhere they can journey plan from or to as a custom location. So we just added it as a custom location with the same place as the interchange, but just with a different name, so that if people were using that in the search, they got the result they needed, rather than getting other bus stations that were not Sunderland because it better matched the name that they were searching for as bus station. I think it was probably a weakness of the search we're using, the search method that was being used as well, that was kind of matching too closely to what people were typing rather than picking up on the Sunderland part, it was, giving them bus stations, and unless they typed interchange, and there's a few different things, but it was just an example of having to kind of, the stop wasn't what people were looking for. The stop name wasn't what people on the ground would have called it.
So you're adding it to a different gazetteer.
Yeah.
Like POIs, because we like you say, we take POIs from OpenStreetMap and stuff. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this was just our own custom kind of in-house one.
Excellent. That's an interesting one, because POIs and landmark are almost identical. Well, are close, and we know that landmark's not very well used, but so it's interesting to know that the POIs from OpenStreetMap might be a better thing, and we could almost, I might go and do some hunting and see how closely that matches or not, and uncover quite a wide variety across the country, and then have a conversation as to what we do with the landmark field, because as far as I can tell, no data consumers are using it currently. But that's an entire side. Let's focus back on names. Local development sometimes requires stops to be moved or enhanced, and on occasions that the name moves with the stop. On other occasions, the stop is renamed. If it's moved somewhere away from the side street, then obviously it can't be named after the side street that it was named after, and you've got to find a new one. I can totally understand that. New person arrives. I see Andy's writing something, so give him a moment to finish writing. Trisha.
I was just going to say, when it comes to the names on the flags, we are imminently really, really close to doing our full bus stop audit. And one of them is to check the name on the flag, and if it doesn't match, let us know so we can get it changed. But we're auditing 4,000 stops, and they've said it's going to take about 10 weeks to do.
Wow.
So once we've got some sample data, I'll send that over as well.
Oh, that would be amazing. Thank you, Trisha. And that would also, that name matching is going to be really interesting, because I think that's one of the ones for, again, running down a quick side street and coming back, for people with cognitive accessibility needs, making sure that names match and are clear and are easy to understand is one of the pieces that needs to be there for that level of accessibility. I know that it helps a lot of other people, but when you've got any kind of cognitive impairment, it's that much harder to do some of those weird logic moves that some of us do when we're faced with slightly off names and things like that. So the next question is, why can names not be simple? So common name, locality, and indicator is one set of variations. Amy and Andy, you're probably going to be the ones who are just going to fly and just go, here's different ways of combining. What are the fields that you use for describing various stops? And you think about, when you're naming a stop, you think about in combination. So you think about, oh, it's called this stop, but it's going to have this indicator, and it's going to have this locality or this street or this suburb or this something, and these are what I expect to be combined together. So just take a minute to throw those up, and then we'll talk through them in the same way. I might go, while you're doing that, I'm going to go put my jug on so that I can have a coffee when we have the next. I can be making coffee when we do the next version of this. I can still hear you, and I'll still hear Any comments? Interesting side thing. I use the word jug for the thing that boils my water because that's what my father called it because he was from Liverpool. Is that a northern thing? Because everyone around me tells me off for not calling it a kettle, but it's not a kettle, it's a jug because the kettle's on the stove and it's a slightly different appliance. Or am I just incredibly mad?
I've lived in the north of England for 30 years and I have never heard jug for the kettle. But unless it's a very specific area of the north. Not that I'm aware of.
It may have just been something from my dad of
I've never
telling
heard
the difference between the two appliances.
I've never heard it called a jug in Scotland either, but
oh
who
dear,
knows?
it's one of
Here's an interesting fact: there isn't a Spanish word for kettle.
My dad was not Spanish. He was a Scouser from Liverpool. No, it was just one of those things. I think it's just became a family convention that we called it the jug, not the kettle, because the kettle was another appliance. And telling the difference between the two. Sorry, that's another little side one we've been down. We'll just take a moment, let these couple ones finish. So. The name does not include the locality. Yep. There's a whole pile of fun here because sometimes the locality repeats what's in the stop name. So village indicator is one of the things that you can get if you use your locality name. I'll use a village called Barnhill. So you've got Barnhill is in the locality Barnhill. There's only one stop there's one pair of stops in Barnhill, but you end up, if you use locality common name indicator, you end up with Barnhill and an indicator. And that's one of the things that everyone says, oh, but we need to avoid this. And I'm like, but what else do you call it? Because it's the only stop in the village. And I think there's also ones where the locality name and indicator is kind of one of those things of if your indicators are A's and B's or letters, should they be before the common name? So it's Barnhill A Barnhill, or is it Barnhill opposite Barnhill? Because you've got opposite and adjacent, and these are all, there are rules of language that we're trying to meet as well as rules of naming. And this is making it very complex for people like Amy and the travel planning apps to use these fields in a consistent manner, because we're using them in a manner that's all about making the language read natural rather than making the stop name. So it's almost like, where do we draw the line? How do we play around with these? Because I think that's a very interesting thing. Andy, I know that you've got thoughts.
Yeah, in your example there, you gave the locality as being an opposite. You can't ever be opposite a locality because a locality is an area. So it'd only be an item inside that locality that you are then being opposite, like opposite a pub or opposite the church. So
if the common name was Barnhill and the locality was Barnhill, you've got two stops. And this comes back to last time's one. You'd never be opposite or adjacent. There'd always be.
No, because you're in the locality. So, yeah, it would have to be a bound. It'd have to be a northbound or westbound, or
Right. So you'd be locality, be Barnhill, westbound Barnhill. Would be how that one would build it. Okay, that makes some more sense. It's still that problems of however the name does not include the locality, if we run into trouble with the stops name, Turn Green Shops. Oh, does this mean like Barnhill Shops, Barnhill? Is that so? But that doesn't make sense, because shops Barnhill means you've got to have the locality, and some people don't have don't automatically bring across the locality. I love the way that I'm just inventing a village called Barnhill. I'm sure it exists. Chris.
Yeah, you hit it nail on the head there. If people are not using the locality, and I wish everybody would in actual fact, you've got to put it in the stop name. It's as simple as that. We have got a number of stops named turn because we've got quite a rural service. So you've got bus stops at the turn for the village. But if you don't include the village name in the common name, you've got three or four turns in a row. It's a bit silly. So we're trying to correct it.
Common name. Yeah, I'm just trying to summarize that, and it is one of those ones that I'm sure will make sense when I listen to this back. Trisha, I saw you ping on and off. I do keep an eye on this side of the screen. Oh no, we'll go to Deborah first and then Trisha. Deborah.
Yeah, I agree with what was just said. Having just turn or even church or anything like that without a locality, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem we have, because we've got a huge area. We do all of Wales, and a lot of it is rural. There's nothing to say, no sort of landmark, or there's no other road. There might be one road that's 3 miles long. You can't just put that road name in, because it could be anywhere along that road.
Yeah, and it's where along that road, what you would expect to see. And I'm assuming some of your landmarks along that road, thinking of New Zealand rural situations, would be such and such farm.
Yes.
That person's name's farm, or the name of the farm, even though that may change because it's a landmark, and that it's kind of one of those things of, there were farms out by us known by the old, it is now so-and-so's farm, it used to be so-and-so's farm, but everyone calls it the Matheson's farm because that was the family that used to own the land, or that was farming the land. Locality, indicator if opposite, adjacent, etc., then common name, or common name then indicator if it's northbound, southbound. Now that is where we're running into this thing of we're trying to programmatically make something natural language, and that is where it's very hard for people like Amy and our data consumers to know the best ways of combining these, because even and I know Pua myself, even within the schema, they give like 4 or 5 different ways of combining the same fields, because this will make it sound natural. And I'm like, but we almost need to go, some of these will sound unnatural, and but we've got to programmatically link them. Otherwise, our voiceover systems can't do next stop announcements very cleanly, because we've got to constantly juggle between these 2 or 3 fields. And the same with trying to present something on a map. You've got to constantly juggle these fields. So this is a really meta question as to how languagey should a bus stop be. How natural language should a bus stop be? So the next thing is how we name. So I've come up with a couple of different scenarios, and I just want to go through them, and then I will leave you while I go make a coffee, because my caffeine levels are too low. We've got Mansfield Road, which is the long road running along, and we've got a side road called Nottingham Road, and we've got 2 stops that are on the side road, and the bus runs up Nottingham Road and turns into Mansfield Road. So what would you name these 2 stops? Just in as a common name, just thinking of trying to understand how you do it. And then this one here is a similar situation, but the bus is just travelling along Mansfield Road, and the 2 stops are besides Nottingham Road, but the bus goes straight ahead. Then we've got a monument. You can give the monument any name that you like. And we've got a bus that runs along and wants to stop at this monument. What would you call these stops? Church, pretty much the same. And then post office. Fun fact, post office is the most common name of stops within NAPTAN. Fun fact for you today. Today we learned. I thought it was going to be high street. It's not, it's post office. And I also am aware that a lot of post offices no longer exist and they're post boxes or are just no longer at that place. So how do you handle these things? So I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes because that's how long my coffee takes to brew. And I'm going to go and make myself a coffee and I will be back. And I can still hear you. I've got my mutter. I'll keep my headset on. Have fun playing with names. And I know that you might not agree, and that's completely fine. I want to understand just how many different ways. And Amy, feel free to put your opinions as to what you think they should be named. There, try not to spill it. How are we going? We've got a minute left. This is all looking good. Thank you. That's a really good one. Okay. This is going to go ping in a second. Don't worry, this isn't a school exam. I'm not going to get you tell you off for going after the beep or anything like that. So starting up the top with how we name, we've got locality Mansfield Road indicator on Nottingham Road. Common name Mansfield Road indicator after, common name Mansfield Road indicator before. Is there a convention of when people use road versus RID? RD. I know that there's only 48 characters available in the common name. I found that out by breaking it and then having to redo a couple of hundred stops. I think it's just used as RD when it needs to be shortened, or do people tend to use RD more than road? See, Andy's nodding at the I'm only shortening it when I have to. I've got a sense that some people shorten it just cause.
I don't know if there's a sort of special rule on it, but if I can use ROAD, I will use the full ROAD.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going for the long version unless we have to shorten it. Then we've got locality Mansfield Road before, locality Mansfield Road after, locality Mansfield Road northbound on Nottingham, locality Mansfield Road southbound on Nottingham. Interesting. So we've got before, after, on, and north and southbound indicators. We went through it last time as well. Mansfield Road going across Nottingham Road, and these are the two stops. So common name Nottingham Road indicator opposite. Is the stop on Nottingham Road or on Mansfield Road? If on Mansfield Road, then common name Nottingham Road indicator adjacent. The stops on the corner. That's about that's me being vague. I just kind of wanted to indicate that it's really close to the road. Locality Nottingham Road indicator on Mansfield Road. Northside stop would be locality Nottingham Road opposite. Southside stop would be locality Mansfield Road opposite. Interesting. So the pair would have a different name, which is an interesting one. Locality adjacent Nottingham Road, locality opposite Nottingham Road. So that would mean that adjacent is here, opposite is there, because you're opposite the road. Those are interesting ones. Does this bring up any thoughts or red flags for people?
I just wanted to comment, Dr. J, that on the purple one that added in, the purple sticky, that you can't have the common name as the name of the road it's on. So it'd have to be different names. That's in NatTan. Guide to naming stops that I've always used.
Absolutely. I find that so this is one of the things, and I'm not going to nullify you because we do need to discuss the schema guidance. The schema guidance is not, I mean, I live in London and the schema guidance isn't matched to what London does because London, but it is one of those things of, how do passengers see this? Which road do passengers, which road does Beryl most likely orientate her brain around? And I think that's something that I'd like to quietly move us towards thinking more than the old strict guidance, because I think the old strict guidance was great and filled a purpose, but needs a little bit of tweaking to get it so that it's inside Beryl's and Beverly's and all of our passengers' heads as to, because if I'm, for example, there's Elephant and Castle, London Road, Elephant and Castle, New Kent Road. I can easily tell which of those two stops they are because they're named after the road that you're standing on. And you need that to make sense of the area. And to me, naming it after the side streets is a little, doesn't make quite the same sense, because Elephant and Castle, New Kent Road would technically be called Meadow Row. But Meadow, nobody knows what Meadow Row is. It's got one church and 2 housing blocks on it, and that's it, or 3 housing blocks on it. It's not a name. It's not a name street. People wouldn't look for it. You know you're on New Kent Road. Andy, you've got thoughts.
Yeah,
Am I breaking the world?
Well, you're not breaking the world, but you're basing stuff on TfL. If we had the funding of TfL, we could all come up with our brilliant naming conventions.
Oh yeah.
You know, the money they've got just outstrips anything the rest of us can do.
Yeah, no, and I am completely aware, which is why I say, but London. So I'm trying to also ensure that when somebody is looking for a stop, we can put ourselves. And I'm not saying the guidance is wrong. It doesn't make as much sense here because you're standing on a road. But it's also how important the road and the side roads are as to which is the bigger name.
Also, the guidance is only guidance. There is lots of times in my areas where the stop owner cannot go in, cannot compete with cannot go inside the guidance or the regulations in the guidance, and they are only guidance. It's not hard and fast rules. They're not going to go to jail if they break it.
And I think
as long as it's helping the public, it's got to help the passenger.
And I think that this was also part of taking away a lot of those business rules that had been applied at various points, because they were trying to apply the guidance as a rule, and it's more like the guidance is go for something around this. And this is part of what I almost want to get the guidance restated in a way that's a lot easier for people to understand, that's nice and clear, that gives picture examples. Here is a road, here is a side road. These 2 stops are called this, and this is why, and this is how your passenger will see them when they're looking at those stops. Moving down to I love the way people brought down Nottingham Road. Thank you very much for that. So we've got monument, locality, adjacent monument, locality, opposite monument, locality, monument name, opposite, locality, monument name, adjacent. Again, it's that switching up of those fields, switching them around in various ways. Nottingham Road, opposite monument, Nottingham Road at monument, locality, indicator, opposite or adjacent monument, monument, opposite, monument, adjacent. So that's a relatively easy one. In fact, I should probably do that one as the first one because it is the simplest of them all. So then we have the church. So we've got locality, indicator, church, opposite or adjacent church, locality, church name, opposite, locality, adjacent, since somebody's church, locality, opposite, since somebody's church, MB, no apostrophe, despite our better judgment. Who's Trish, Lynn, is this you on the apostrophes? No? Do we drop apostrophes because we need to?
We drop apostrophes because the downstream software in some cases, many cases, just can't handle it. I had a case even yesterday where a major operator software can't handle apostrophes. They couldn't find the bus stop that I had just named with an apostrophe. So it pains me to drop them, but we're not alone. The street names have got them, and I suspect that people by now have got used to the fact that there is no punctuation allowed in stop names and street names. The Diva software that I use can handle it without any problem, and the Naptan can, but it's some of the downstream. I know of 2 downstream bits of software that just can't handle them. People can't find the stops in there. Don't ask me why. We are in the 21st century, but hey.
This is one of the things that we're tidying up slightly. So just to, we did a session on it, I think 2 months ago, talking about all the text fields. Only 3 of the text fields were having validators run across them, and we now want to turn them on for everything. But we're having to check what we turn the validators on for, because the fields that you've not had to have validators turned on, I don't want you suddenly not to be able to update anything. So we've spoken with South Yorkshire, who use slashes everywhere. they're going to, because they put the locality, indicator and common name all into the common name field with slashes between them. I've suggested that that's not what to do, and we're working with them on what they come up with. We have then decided to leave the slashes in because London used them extensively and I couldn't break TfL. So we're doing some work on which things. So Chris, I will double check and make sure that we warn people if they've got an apostrophe, or tell people that they've got apostrophes. These are going to become, when we do turn them on, I will make sure everyone knows, everyone's well and truly aware, because indicator is a free text field that's never had any validators turned on it. So you're all a bit wild in there. You're using all kinds of crazy. You could even use commas in there, and people have put commas in there as defaults. So we're needing to find everyone and just let them know to make those changes. That was a little bit of an aside on apostrophes. Post office, locality, adjacent or opposite post office, locality, locality name, then post office, as there may be more than one post office in the locality. Very nice. Locality, indicator, adjacent or opposite post office. So we've got a good kind of almost consensus with this group, which doesn't consensus with the last meeting, but this is part of the fun of what my job is now trying to synthesize this all together into something to bring to you all as to how these are applied and put together and talked about. So the next one, I won't go into what rules we follow. What I'm going to get you to do, we'll scoot along and we'll go into the Beryl context. So I'm going to do a very quick describer of what's here. Here is a bus stop. Here is Beryl. Here is a pub that has been rebuilt as a block of flats. This was the best I could do for trying to put some pictures together. So it's a pub. The pub building has remained, but it's now a block of flats. So Beryl has been in the area for years. She's lived there since she was wee. She knows it. She knows all the names of the spaces. How would this change if she's new to the area? What would she see? How would she know about the name of the stop? And then if she's planning to catch a bus from the stop, what are the things that she would need to know about the name? If she's on the bus traveling towards the stop, how does this change what the name should be? And when she's planning her journey, how does this change what the name should be? Is there any... And this is about how we use locality, indicator, and common name, and point of interest fields and things like that. What are the name things that need to be in these various contexts? Because I think this came up last time and was quite an interesting piece to run through. Does this make sense to everybody, these different contexts? So this is, how does Beryl know this is the right stop if she's lived there forever? What if she's new to the area? What if she's planning to catch a bus from the stop? What does she need to know? What if she's on the bus? What should the stop? What should the fields? What should she be told about the stop? And then when she's planning her journey, how does she know the stop and plan the stop? So I'm going to give you like 5 minutes to have a play through with this.
5 minutes later.
Okay. Let's go through this. If you're still finishing up, we'll catch up down there. So, Beryl, who's lived in the area for a while, and the pub has been rebuilt into a block of flats. Beryl should look at the stop name on the bus stop flag to confirm she is at the correct stop. That's assuming that the bus stop flag has the stop name on it. Quick question for you, which I realise hasn't come up but came up last time. Is it local authorities or bus operators who put up the flags, or both? Or neither? Or differs? And it depends on the local authority?
It depends on the local authority.
Yeah, we do all of ours. Nottingham City do all of theirs, but Derbyshire is a mix between the local authority and the operator.
And do you tell the operator what to put on the flag, or does the operator do their own thing?
For us, because we do our own, we do our own thing. So
we tell the operators what to put on the flag. If the operators are putting it on, they do it according to NAPTAN, and we advise them.
That was what I needed. Other quick questions for you, because again, based in London, I do travel up to Chesham and I do go to places outside of London, and I spent a lot of time looking at bus stops outside of London. Even in Parma, I was looking at bus stops. I've got to stop being quite so obsessed. Do you put the routes on the bus stops and the destination on the bus flags and the destinations?
And we have so we cover 12 local authorities in Leeds, so we do the bus stop flags, and in city centre and town centres, or any stop that isn't served by every passing bus service, we use an MST, multi-service tablet, which won't have the destinations on it, but it'll just list the service, the operator and the services that use that stop, and then any further information, destinations and whatnot, and on the timetables, which we also do now mainly, except for one operator that's kind of refused to come on board, and they do their own timetable, like paper timetable information. But for the most part, SBT are now doing the timetables as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Chris?
Yeah, we have one operator in the city area of Oxfordshire that tends to do the premium bus stops, if you like, those on the more frequent routes, and they will put route number grids on and generally keep it right up to date for all operators. And they will also put timetables in the timetable cases. The difficulty comes in the rather more rural areas, and we're trying to work out what to do about that. But we have got a program now of at least trying to get the bus stop names on most of the flags, on all of the flags in actual fact, because we're aware that passengers don't know the name of their bus stop as we know it, or as the bus operators know it. And what with the advent of on-bus next stop announcements, we need to get our act in gear. So it's a whole mixture of things, Dr. J.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, sorry, Dr. J, to interrupt you, but on our flags, we don't have any actual naming. It's just, we used to have zones on them, which was for our zone card, which is like a multimodal ticket. But now it is just our stop reference, but that's not necessarily the stop reference that you'll find on Google Maps. Well, it's definitely not. It's a different one. Although both will be on the timetable.
I know Google Maps tends to use the NAPTAN code, not the ATCO code.
Not the ATCO, yeah.
Yeah.
But we just display the ATCO at the moment.
Yeah, we are talking to them about accessibility, so we're going to start talking to them a little bit more about why it might be useful to show both, but also, and some of those little bits and pieces. There were. Lynn, I see your hands up. Just give me 2 seconds. There was one other thought that Chris brought up. Anecdotally, and I know it's happened more than once, somebody found a missing bus stop when they finally cut down a hedge after 8 years, and the bus stop had been missing for all of that time. Or the bus stop flag, everyone assumed it had been nicked and stolen. I'm assuming that is a kind of a not a common occurrence, but a possible occurrence. Yeah, I saw the thumbs up.
There's one. We've got one at the moment we're going to have to move because it just keeps getting overgrown and people are waving their hands in front of the buses and the bus drivers can't see the flag. So don't always stop.
Because the bus driver needs to see the flag to know that it's a bus stop to stop at.
Well, they should know the route anyway, but they're meant to put wherever we place the flag is where the driver's meant to pull up to. That's where they're meant to line up and stop.
Yes, of course, because it's measured. Yes. Lynn, I'll throw it to you.
Hello, I was just going to mention, so on our flags, we have the name of the road the stop is on, then the common name, the service numbers, and we also have towards information on our flags.
Oh, so here's a question for you. When you do the towards information, is it a generic towards this area, or is it towards the city, away from the city, or do you say like towards the university? Do you do the closest POI or the biggest POI?
That is, subjective depending on where it is. So if it's quite close to the city, it'll say towards city. If it's more going towards a different area, it will just have that next large area that it visits that's known on the route.
That's great. It was a question that came up at another point, because it's about the layering of localities, which in MPTG hasn't really happened in a lot of places. MPTG is a bit wild all over, and it doesn't have. It's supposed to have some nice layering that allows you to do some of that, but I won't even start.
It's a difficult one because in, say, a very busy city route, you can't use the destinations. There are just too many of them to fit on the flag, in actual fact. So you've got to do it towards a relative, towards the southern bypass or towards intermediate point B, this sort of thing. So it's sometimes you put the destination on, sometimes you won't. You just have to work around it. So it's rather like you say, Dr. J, movable feast.
Yeah, and I'm very aware. Right. Just quickly running back to this, the bus stop name should be updated to reflect the current situation. Even blocks of flats have names. Rename the bus stop to match, else it's a completely bland look to renaming to matching a side street or other POI. The flag should be kept up to date. Operators could post a note on their timetables. This was the stop formerly known as. Now, interestingly, how long should that formerly known as exist? We know of places where the pub went out of existence 20 plus years ago, but people still call the stop by the name of the pub that is no longer there and hasn't been there within most of the youthful memories of the place. So I think formerly known as, it's like the artist formerly known as Prince. How long was he formerly known as Prince before he came back to Prince, but also how long should formerly known as be known as? By checking the info on the flag timetable poster. Excellent. If she's new to the area, she should look at the stop name and it should confirm she's at the correct stop, which should not rely on local knowledge to understand what the name is about, because otherwise it's knowing that the block of flats is called one name but the stop is named after the pub that no longer exists. It leads an air of mystery to your journey, but still. Planning to catch a bus from the stop, see that the service number she's getting on is on the flag. Beryl is more likely to journey plan from a postcode or locality to a postcode or locality than the journey plan. Then the journey plan will tell Beryl which stop to use. Yep, that's really great. I know that postcodes are used as much as localities, if not more, and I think this is one of the things. I'm going to do one on MPTG. It'll probably be one of the ones for next year, is really understanding the use of localities, because they were created in one way, they're being used in a slightly different way, and how do we get them into the most goodliest state that we can, because I don't think there is an alternative. I've been honestly looking through for alternatives, not that I want to kill MPTG in any way, heaven forfend that I say that, but there is no travel locality that makes sense, because the name of a locality is different to its formal locality in Ordnance Survey or in the electoral rolls and things like that, because people have names for places and names for areas, and this is all part of what I want to kind of dive into and unpick a little bit. Andy's giving me nods, so I'm obviously suggesting things that Andy's been wanting to clean up for ages, given all of the requests to fix MPTG that he's been sending me recently. And Amy will be much happier, because having good localities will make travel planning much easier, because people will know where they're going. On the bus, if Beryl uses an app, the app should tell her where her stop is, or the bus stop announcement. So what I think can be the little confusing moment is when the app and the bus stop announcement might not line up. And that's kind of one of those ones of how do we get on top of that, which I think is about next stop announcements, the renaming. I'm also aware that some bus companies use their next stop announcements almost as like branding, they get local voices, like radio voices and that, to do their announcements, and not robot voices. We've got no bus operators on here, do we? So I can't ask you the question of how you do your voices. So I will. We found out last time it's a lot of local celebs planning the journey. Nobody's made any comments about it, or if you did, it's disappeared and been moved around. So when we're planning the journey, what are the things that Beryl might need to know that she's choosing the right stop or going to the right place?
Beryl is unlikely to journey plan from a bus stop unless
Absolutely.
she's a local and been there for a long time. She's always going to, the biggest one, the biggest gazetteers that's used for journey planning is postcode or address, and then locality by a long way.
I can't spell address. ADDRESS. And then locality is a long way down. Does that match your?
It's not a long way down. It's only slightly under. Locality
slightly
is.
under.
It is the second biggest used gazetteer in our system.
Does that match your system as well, Amy? I know that you and Andy's are very, very closely aligned.
Yeah, I would say so. I think, yeah, postcodes, localities, whether or not that's the initial thing that is searched, and then they might select a stop from a list that's presented, or go from the locality in general. But as you say, sometimes the localities are not very helpful, as the centre of the locality is not where you might expect it to be. But that would be the initial. Yeah, the first thing that they'd search for wouldn't necessarily be a stop, unless they have a stop in mind that they already know of, that they know like I search by my naptan code of my stop because I know what it is, but people not in the bus world probably would never do that. They'd just search for they know the locality, the area that'd be, or they've got a postcode of the place that they're going to, and that's quite a sort of, I feel like that's quite a Google world thing, that people are like postcode to postcode,
yeah,
or something like that. But yeah, I think we'd probably have a similar experience.
Great.
If you're journey planning national rail, you would normally search from stop to stop, but with buses, because there are often more than one option, and you may miss your local, the closest bus stop may not be the best journey planning bus or stop. So most people journey plan door to door, in my experience.
Yeah. That's my way of doing it, and it's good to hear, because I tend to plan my journeys from postcode to postcode and then curse the choices and curse that one particular route doesn't show up very well in the TfL planners, because it's a national rail route that isn't tucked into the TfL very well, but it connects with the Elizabeth line and is a kind of a sneaky little fast way around London these days. All the wild things of my life that you're finding out, that I get frustrated with the fact that Thameslink and Thameslink services aren't propagated correctly in some of the apps, because of the silos of who looks after the stations. Right. What else do we need? Planning. Right. I'm going to run backwards slightly and go to best practices to publish. Now, I took the guidance that was there, which was not great and not clear, and I've put this guidance together. Now, this is an MVP, very, very me style, trying to put some examples in. It'd be great if you just had a glance through it and put any comments if there's any red flags in what I've written, because I'm just trying to point out how you use common names, street, locality, indicator. I've used street a lot, which we haven't talked about at all. So I realise that in my guidance, I am talking about a field that you all don't fill out. because a lot of y'all don't use street and suburb these days. And that's maybe another question as to whether street and suburb all about trying to do something that the gazetteer wasn't at some point in time. And Andy's giving me a nod on that. And we should just start ignoring them. And I've put them in here, and I should take it out, and it should just be name, locality, and indicator. So I was just trying to put this together, making sure that things match, don't repeat information, so you keep it, and you keep the information separate so that you don't put them within, you don't put the indicator within the common name, for example, and things like this. But this is the best I can do, or I could do from what we had written there, and trying to use this Post Office Weekly. I don't even know if Weekly exists. I just created another town, which probably exists somewhere in England, because any name you can think of, there's probably a town in England called it, or a village. So it'd be really good to get your thoughts on that, and that will also help us then with the one previously, which is what rules we follow. Or it shouldn't be rules, it should be guidance, I think. But yeah, I'm trying to get together the best practices. And I know that they will differ across the country, and I know I'm trying to get us to corral a little bit around some of the ideas so that we've got something that I'd rather have you working on maybe 2 or 3 different variations rather than 148, because that makes it a little bit easier for the data consumers, makes it a little bit easier for us when we're trying to make sense of everything. Yes. Oh, and if there's things that you think I should change in this current guidance, just feel free to tell me. Just copy it from it's on the, I'll show you where it is, on the additional information page, how to name stops in NAPTAN. Just, I summarized it down because I've put quite a bit more in there. Feel free to just screenshot it or copy paste it and say, Jay, you got this wrong. This is not how we do it. Here's what you should be saying. Because I did my best to take some slightly wonky guidance and make it a little bit more readable and because it was using landmark a lot, and it was also switching between passenger, person, traveller, and people, and for consistency, if the Beryl is consistently called a passenger, so that actor is very, very clear. And I realise I've also possibly missed an apostrophe in the stop descriptions. Have I missed one or not? In the title. Anyway. Okay, I can see I prefer the order locality common name. That's really good. I can switch that around. So it can become weekly post office rather than post office weekly. That's an easy, quick thing to do. Locality has a single coordinate, so a JP, journey planner to or from a locality, will be to or from a single point. Yeah, this is, again, deep diving into MPTG. I can't figure out where some of your locality centres are, because some of them are in the middle of fields, some of them are in the middle of towns. Should it be the geographical centre or the population centre or the logic centre of a locality, and how do we make this make sense? This is, again, I think I'm going to do a big deep dive early next year, because it's going to take me that long to get my head around some of this.
It should be the logic center, the logical center. So once you journey plan to it, if you get off of there, you are logically in that locality. When ITO had the NAPTAN and NIPTIG checking tool, that was one of the things on it. That was one of the big areas that the stop owners and the NIPTIG owners could check the center points were correct.
That's so. Last time in the last session, the Ito World tool came up, and I was pondering on what are the bits that we're missing from it. And I think the one thing that we're missing from it now is that ability to visualize localities, what stops are in a locality and where the locality center is in relation to those stops. And that's a business case that I can now go build, because the rest of the Ito World tooling around the business rules, we've wiped that out. Around being able to see where a stop is mapped, pretty much everybody's home systems does that, and or your third-party systems does it. There's very few people whose editing systems don't show them where the stop is. There are some weirdnesses of some systems lock to roads and do all kinds of crazy things. I don't know whether it's Andy's or somebody's, but if you move it a pixel, it'll suddenly lock to a road and jump 3 or 4. And no, it's not Andy's. It's one of the other systems. Has some weirdnesses around where stops are located, and if you move a stop ever so slightly, it tries to lock it to a road. But pretty much everybody can see where their stops are. But one of the things I recognise that's not that visible is being able to see localities, stops within localities, and the centre point of localities. So I'm going to go away, and I'm thinking of building a business case for building a tool like this, which allows you to visualise stuff, and then it's kind of like, okay, so what bits do you need to edit? What bits do you need to update? Is it on you? It's definitely on you to make sure your stops are on the right localities. And sometimes that stop that's 50 miles away from the locality has been an oopsie of you've put in the wrong Oxfordshire something or other, or you've put in the wrong village of a similar name, and you just need to switch it around. And then it comes into how do we edit and how do we control editing of NAPTAN? Because one of the reasons NUBTIG's in the state that it is that you all had access to edit NUBTIG, and you all did it differently. You all had slightly different ways of thinking about what a locality is and how they stack and how they relate to each other, which is why if I open it out to you all doing those changes, again, I want to make it a lot more logical so that you can see how this all stacks and maps together, and we get that stacking that should be happening within NUBTIG that's often not. There's a lot of places where there's just an isolated village that doesn't have any parents, grandparents, or anything else. So you can't. So if it's a village on, and I can't think of an example, but there are a lot of villages that just exist at the same level as like Bath or London or Bristol, but they're a small village within a thing. But their parents and grandparents and their stacking hasn't been put in, and this is some of what I'm trying to unpick and understand. But also, I'm aware that some of the localities were just created from parish records and stuff like that may not actually be what people call the place. So, yeah, cleaning up MPTG, it's not going to be a short-term thing. But I'm trying to think of how we plan it out and how I build in those MVP and iterates. Anyway, that's hot off Jay's caffeinated brain. Let's go to Andy.
One of the big developments we paid for this year in Diva was the ability to see the locality shape that's built up by the stops and to see where the center point of the locality is set at the moment, so that our users can get in there and they can not just see where the stop location is and where that georeference is to the center point of the road, but also to the locality areas and center points.
Amazing. So that means at least some of the ecosystem has this ability, if not everyone. It still means we need to do it. I think it's one of those things that's just going to help enough people. But it is one of those pieces. I think it's the remaining part of the Ito World tool that still needs to, or the Ito World website tooling that hasn't got another replacement elsewhere. Amy.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was, I kind of vouch for that part of the tool that we don't have access to anymore, is because we don't have any sort of software where we're creating or managing stops necessarily, but it was really helpful for me to understand, obviously, this sort of software where I can plan the coordinates of particular stops and see where their locations are on a map, but for nuptig localities and being able to see the kind of area, what stops are within it and where the center of it is, it makes some of the journey plans make sense, where, like we said, a lot of people are planning to and from localities if they don't necessarily know a specific stop where they're going to, and we'll often get journey plans where it'll get them to the bus stop and then give them a really weird walk link to the center of the locality, which might not necessarily be where they would expect it to be, where everyone's getting off the bus in town. They've put it somewhere where it's sort of in the center geographically, and your towns, all your bus stops at the bottom of town, and it tells you to do something weird. And it used to definitely help me to understand when people are like, why have I got this weird journey plan? And you look and go, oh, it's because you've planned to the locality, which is in a weird location. And being able to see that and see where the stops are, it was a helpful tool to kind of understand some of these weird journey plan results, and then we can kind of think about how we make that better, because people get weird walk links because of some of the weird locations, and they're like, I've arrived in town, now I've got to do a weird walk somewhere, why is it telling me to do that? Those kind of journey plans.
I've seen those where you get that arrive in town and now walk 20 minutes into the middle of a field, which makes no sense. But I'm like, so this is kind of one of things that I've recognised and I've seen myself. The other thing is that I realise that the shape of a locality is a function of the stops within the locality. So if a stop is put into the wrong locality, it changes the shape of that locality, and means that you might end up planning to a locality and getting a stop that's 50 miles away because somebody's accidentally put in a stop to the wrong place. And it's kind of one of those little things that if you can't see it, you can't correct for it, and it's not an easy thing to programmatically correct for. So this is why I've been pondering on this. Let's just have a quick look. Locality is a single coordinate, not necessarily. Locality can be used by journey plan apps to plan a journey to an area which will show all the stops available in that area. And somebody's put not necessarily, because it depends on if the stops are put into that locality, but also how the journey planner is planning. Journey planner plannings be fun. So the guidance is not too awful. It just needs a few small tweaks on the order and that, which is no biggie. I can quickly go and tweak that. We've got about 10 minutes left. Let's just, when I say what rules we follow, can you write me out whether you use the NapTank guidance, whether you've got some in-house rules, whether you've got a book or a document that somebody created 20 years ago and that's what you're using? I just want to know your functional day-to-day. I'm not going to yell at anyone who's not been using the guidance and has been building their in-house versions. Just let me know how you get those rules.
SPT, we use the NapTan guidelines, but also me, because I've been here for over 20 years.
I was going to say, if you use the NAPTAN guidelines, they're not the clearest.
Yeah, I think I kind of use it as a guide, but I've just probably been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
I think
and when you say-
sometimes, sorry,
Sorry,
sometimes when I get it, on you go, Dr. G.
I was just going to say, when you say NAPTAN guidance, are you talking about the schema, or are you
Yeah.
talking about the guide for data managers, or are you talking about the random pages that have been written in various places that I'm trying to track down?
I think I use a schema.
Oh my God! Which version?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know. I didn't know there was lots of different things.
There are. I know of 5 of them. Only 3 of which have been published in various ways, but I've got a couple of drafts of other versions. But when you say guidelines, if you could tell me which pages you're looking at, if you've got them handy, or if you've, that would be helpful, because there is somewhere something called a guide for NAPTAN data managers that also provides information that doesn't match the schema, that doesn't match the guidance, it doesn't match your practices. So I'm trying to, in some ways, so I'm trying to find that and pull that down.
Sometimes when I'd say the thing that I have gotten wrong since I've been in this department is when we have to use a street number or a house number. So Main Street at number 55 or whatever. If there's no like other landmark or nearby adjacent street, then we do sometimes use that, and filling in the right fields for that is sometimes a bit of a tricky one. But Fraser Leith, who is the data manager at Trapeze / Travel Line, he usually, if there's something that goes in that goes wrong, he's quite quick to fill me up on it.
Yeah, Fraser and I have a good close relationship. We've been tracking. I think he may be the person who's done an update for Midlothian, because we essentially came to the agreement that it's been so long and he desperately needed a couple of stops, and he had all of the information to add them, and we just gave him the ability to do that one stop, which was but it is kind of one of the or do that one locality, which is wrong in so many ways, but also it was the only way of solving it, because otherwise Transport for Scotland, if you can't get the local authority to play, you've not got the regulatory things that we've got in England. So that was the only way around it. There
was a similar thing, I don't know if with Argyll and Bute. So they are one of our councils, but they're the only one that we don't upload the data for. Although we will give them new stops and give them the new stop numbers, they are the ones that have to put it into their system and upload. And I know they were having issues where they weren't doing it.
Andy, is Argyll and Bute one of the ones that you picked up from Scotland? Yeah, I thought it might be.
Yeah, actually, the reason
Andy, you're on mute, but we'll go to Elisa first.
So yeah, the reason Argyll and Bute are split is because the area split, and they do the kind of north of Argyll and Bute, and we deal with everything up to a place called Ariker. But I don't know when or if they have the manpower. I don't know when it's ever going to happen. Because I'm getting a bit frustrated that all our stop data's not available, So
is this an ETCO code that we need to split, and is this kind of one of those ones of and Andy, it is on my list, trust me. I've just been so, there just isn't time. I need a TARDIS. So if we need to split an ETCO code, we now have a process for it, Elisa, which would give you control of those southern stops. They would gain new numbers though. So that's just a little thing to think about, and we can have a chat later after this.
Okay. Yeah.
Andy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry, Argyll and Bute are one of mine. They're part of High Trans, so they've got the Diva system for maintaining their NAPTAN stops, and I upload for them if they make any changes.
Oh, good Lord. Could somebody, whoever wrote this pink one, could you possibly send me that guide? Because it's one, I've possibly got a version of it, but I may disagree with some of it. So it would be lovely to get that and be able to kind of, yes, understand what it's saying and what rules may have changed in the various NAPTAN versions.
If you can
2.4.
understand it, let me know, because I've been trying for the last 15 years to understand it.
Everyone's many of the people in ThoughtWorks laugh at the fact that I know so well the 400,000 stops that we've got that I can almost find a particular style stop just by going to Google Maps and going, okay, so we're in this area and we want a road like this, and there's a stop and there's this kind of stop that I need to talk about. But I've also managed to get my head around the various versions of both TransExchange and the NAPTAN stuff. But that's as concepts, not in detail in a few places. So there's a few where I actually still need to go back to the documents and really pore through them to try to understand what the intent is, what the tactical has been, and what we could potentially look at in the future to do to meet the original intent, because in practice it's moved from that intent for various reasons. It's fun. But yeah, thank you, Lynn. I look forward to that bit of reading. Elisa.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to, there's two things. Andy, did you say that you were uploading the NAPTAN data for Argyll and Bute now?
Andy, you've been...
Yeah, sorry, I need to check something. I believe I do. There is one area of the High Trans that I don't upload, which is Orkney Isles. That's done by Travelline Scotland. Yeah, Argyll and Bute, our last update on the 18th of September.
All right, I'll check out data then, see if some of the stops that we've created are appearing. Just wonder if ours is up to date at all, because I wonder if they've included it, but I'll check on that. Thank you. And the other thing was just, Jay, that is the document, the Department for Transport Schema guide that I use. Or I would also use the guide for data managers, because when you Google NAPTAN guide, it gives you access to those two files.
Yeah, thank you. The guide for data managers is one that I kind of want to... I've not got control to edit it at the moment, and that's one of the things that I'm trying to get control to edit it, and then also bring it across into the NAPTAN area, because we've got the ability now to publish and to talk about these things and just chunk it down and simplify it in various ways, because it's complicated, but it's also wrong, because it talks about the old NAPTAN system and it talks about some of the stuff, and I don't know how to update it. So that's something I'm setting BB on. We've got about 2 minutes left. Also, Elisa and Andy, it sounds like the two of you've got each other's emails, I'm assuming. If you want to do an email exchange, because it sounds like if the two of you maybe had an email conversation when stops were updated, that might be really helpful. Not to tell you how to suck eggs or anything, but it just sounded like a really useful thing. I'm just going to skip across. We've got our little feedback corner, and it'd be really good to get feedback so that we can make these meetings really work for everybody and be as useful as possible. So if you've got time, throw stuff in. We've also got the contacts there, so you can... the product owners for NAPTAN is BB, whose email address I've forgotten to put in there. I'm the service designer. Get in touch with me. If you hit my mailbox, it's sometimes a bit chaos. If you hit the main mailbox, there's at least more than just me answering it. So you're more likely to get stuff done, even if it's just me, because stuff doesn't get lost in the day-to-day trying to chase up rail stations. Andy, I'm still trying to find out why I don't have the information about your rail station. in the data set that I've got, and also how to get the data set that does have the information about your station so that I can get the right data set. The Rail Data Marketplace is good, but it's trying to understand the frequency of updates of some of these. If they only tell me about rail stations once a year, that's a little bit unfortunate for people who wish to travel from those rail stations. Alyssa.
Sorry, yeah, me again.
Do not apologise for talking, please. Please don't.
We are, I need to ask this before the meeting closes, we are changing our system, our in-house system, and we're going to be trialling exporting our NAPTAN data. And I need to have a contact of, I'd like to trial it, like upload one of our areas, and just to make sure everything's working. I don't know who would be the best person to get in touch with.
Ping me and the main mailbox, and what I can do is I can get us to upload it on our staging site so we can test out that it all goes up okay without you having an oops moment and wiping out an entire local authority. And I'm saying that I can't see if she's still here. Deborah, you're still here. We know that happened when for a region in Wales, when you changed versions at one point, it suddenly lost about 1,000 stops. So we managed to go back and replace that. So there are backups.
Yeah, that was Swansea.
Swansea, yeah. Swansea suddenly lost everything.
Don't want that. Don't want to lose Scotland.
Yeah. But also one of the things is with the data retention policy, we keep the last 5 good files that you've uploaded. So if you upload something and it goes completely Pete Tong, you can get hold of us straight away, and within, depends on how quickly me or somebody checks the mailbox, but within about an hour of being told, we can go and we can restore from a previously good file. So you sort things out. So there's stress, but it's no big stress.
Okay, so if I upload it as normal to one file to the DFT and email it to you at the same time, yeah?
Yeah. And then if it goes wrong, we can always I will know, and I will just ask the team to jump back to the previously good file, as long as you don't do it more than 6 times in a row. If you do it 6 times in a row, then life is going to be a little bit more complicated because we only store the last five good files.
Yeah. That's fine. Cool. Thank you.
No worries. It's good to have backups. So yeah, I just wanted to. We've run a few minutes over, but just thank everyone for their time and their energy and their thoughts and contributions. It's been really great. And yeah, I'll see you all in a month or so to go through the joy that is stop statuses, which is going to be. Again, we spend 2 hours discussing a single field within NAPTAN, and people are like, how can you do this? And I'm like, it starts conversations. It starts all of these ideas sparking off. So this has been great. And I will see you all next time, and I'm going to stop sharing.